Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte will not attend today's reading of the ICC Appeals Chamber's judgment on his bid for interim release.
With no questions raised on the floor, the Senate passed the 889 million peso OVP budget for 2026 in under 5 minutes.
Philippine authorities assure that monetary and medical assistance will be provided to Filipinos affected by the deadly apartment fire in Hong Kong.
And Gilas Pilipinas battles Guam tonight for a crucial shot at the 2027 FIBA World Cup and 2028 Olympics.
First in the news, Agriculture Chief Francisco Chu Laurel has come to the defense of First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. This comes after former Congressman Zaldico implicated the First Lady in the controversial onion importation mess. Here's the report.
Napakasinungaling talaga niya.
Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. slammed resigned Congressman Zaldico over his accusations against First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. In a video released by Co on November 26, he accused the First Lady of involvement in the surge in rice and onion prices. According to Co, her brother Martin Araneta controls onion importation. He claimed that when the House investigated the spike in onion prices in 2022, FL Liza allegedly called then House Speaker Martin Romualdez to stop the inquiry.
Kaya walang natuloy at walang naparusahan. Dahil pala, kontrolado ng kapatid ng First Lady ang importasyon ng sibuyas.
He also claimed the same thing happened when rice prices surged in 2023. Cos said Chu Laurel had presented a confidential report to the House Committee on Agriculture which allegedly indicated that the First Lady controlled rice importers. But the DA Secretary presented what Cos said was the confidential report in question. The First Lady's name was not on the list.
Ito ho ay walang katotohanan. Fabricated lie ho to. The First Lady has never meddled in any DA matters. Napakasinungaling talaga niya.
He added that Martin Araneta also had no role in onion importation. He said the onion price hike in 2022 was due to a supply shortage.
If may big-scale smuggling na nangyayari during that time, nakakasiguro ako na hindi tataas ng ganito ang presyo. Hindi ito logical. Hindi rin totoo na involved si Martin Araneta sa onion importation or any smuggling or importation issue.
Chu Laurel said the only true part of Cos claims was that they discussed lowering rice tariffs in 2024. But he said the former lawmaker actually wanted zero tariff, contrary to his statement in the video claiming 15%. The DA chief plans to file cyber libel charges against Co.
Saldico, ang masasabi ko sa iyo, umuwi ka na. Harapin mo lahat.
While the First Lady has not yet issued a direct response to Cos accusations, she shared a pointed message on Facebook. She said that while others may prefer theatrics, she would rather focus on teaching law students how the law works, rooted in truth and proof.
House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos has written to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, expressing his willingness to appear before the body at any time. The letter comes after former Congressman Zaldico accused Marcos of allegedly facilitating over 50 billion pesos in insertions between 2023 and 2025. ICI Executive Director Brian Hosaco confirmed the commission has received Marcos's letter and noted that they recognize his readiness to appear without the need for a subpoena.
Well, right now, if you read the request of Congressman Sandro Marcos, it was not stated there. So based on our rules, unless there's a request, formal request for an executive session, the default will be live stream. Ang commission naman ay bukas sa any information, especially here na merong pupunta, regardless of who that person is, will voluntarily appear and testify under oath, ay malaking bagay sa amin. We take note of his willingness on his willingness to appear voluntarily before the commission, and we will wait for the commission to eventually set the date.
In less than 5 minutes and without a single question from senators, the Senate approved the 889 million peso 2026 budget of the Office of the Vice President. Here is the report.
In under 5 minutes, the Senate approved the 889 million peso budget of the Office of the Vice President for 2026. Vice President Sara Duterte personally attended the plenary, but no senator raised a single question about the OVP's budget. Only Senator Robin Padilla, a Duterte ally, stood to thank the chamber for retaining and even increasing the Vice President's funding.
Maraming salamat po, sponsor, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Kundi ako po'y magmamanifest lamang. Ako po'y natutuwa sapagkat dito po sa ating bulwagan ay atin pong hindi binawasan ang budget ng ating pangalawang Pangulo, bagkus ay dinagdagan sa lahat po ng mga senador. Maraming salamat po at hindi po nagmula dito sa ating bulwagan ang pang-iipit sa ating pangalawang Pangulo. Muli po, maraming salamat at pinatutunayan ko po ng napakalaki ng naitulong ng ating pangalawang Pangulo.
He also highlighted the OVP's assistance during the calamities and emergencies.
Sapagkat alam niyo po, sa akin pong karanasan sa tuwing may dadating na kalamidad, kalungkutan, kamatayan, naandyan po lagi ang ating pangalawang Pangulo upang makiramay, tumulong. Kahit saan pong lupalop sa Pilipinas, makikita po natin ang opisina ng ating pangalawang Pangulo at siya mismo pumupunta sa mga lugar na hindi pa po naabot ng kahit na sinong naging public official.
After the session, VP Sara was seen meeting with her Senate allies, including Senators Bongo and Amy Marcos. She briefly faced reporters but declined to take questions, offering instead a Christmas greeting to the Senate press corps.
Sa inyong lahat, sa Senate beat ng Friends from the Media, the reason na pumunta ako dito ay para batiin kayong lahat ng Blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I wish you good health in the year 2026. And we'd like to thank the Senate of the Philippines for approving the OVP year 2026 budget.
According to Senate Finance Committee Chair Win Gatchalian, yesterday marked the final day of budget deliberations. The Senate is expected to open the period of amendments for the 2026 national budget next week. But one absence stood out. Senator Bato de la Rosa, assigned to defend the Department of National Defense's budget, was again not present and has not attended any session since Congress reopened on November 10.
Yung kay Senator Bato lang, nagpaalam po ba siya na absent siya even budget day?
Hindi, he has not gotten in touch with me since the break.
What do you make of it, SP, na hindi siya nagpaalam? Pwede po yun, SP?
Oh yeah, malalaki na sila. It's their own lookout.
Senate President Tito Soto said there is currently no clear penalty for senators who failed to defend the agencies assigned to them, though he intends to review the rules.
Is that okay na hindi nila na-defend yung agency na dapat i-defend nila?
Hindi okay yun. In the first place, dapat hindi mo hiniling na makuha mo yung mga chairmanship na yun kung hindi mo naman, kung kaya mo. Sana, kung hindi mo kaya, hindi mo dapat hiniling na makuha mo yung mga chairmanship na yun. Especially vice chairmanship ng budget, national defense, napakahalaga eh. So, I leave it to Senator Gatchalian, who's the chairman of the Committee on Finance. Siya na bahala kung anong gagawin niya.
He added that Senator De La Rosa has not reached out to him amid talk of a possible ICC warrant.
Now, former President Rodrigo Duterte will skip today's reading of the ICC Appeals Chamber's verdict on his bid for interim release. His defense filed a signed waiver on November 27 about Duterte's absence, which the court granted. The oral judgment will be announced at 10:30 a.m. in The Hague or 5:30 p.m. in the Philippines. Duterte's appeal challenges the Chamber's September 26 decision ordering his continued detention, a ruling his lawyers have called erroneous. The former president was arrested on March 11 under an ICC warrant for crimes against humanity over his war on drugs. Now let's discuss that with Ateneo Policy Center Senior Research Fellow Attorney Michael Yusinko. Thanks for joining us again, Attorney. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Angela, and to Diego, and also good morning to all of your listeners and viewers.
Well, Attorney, ano ba yung kumbaga parang nakita nating diskarte no ng counsel dito ni former President Rodrigo Duterte when in fact we know no itong desisyon na to, yung oral judgment na to ay doon lamang sa issue ng interim release. Hindi pa ito doon sa issue na pinag-uusapan yung ano niya, yung fit to stand trial. Attorney.
Well, I think you're referring to kung bakit hindi siya mag-attend in person. Yeah. Kasi from the perspective of a practitioner, normally kasi in matters like this one, parang ano to a matter of course type of hearing. Siyempre hindi mo na pinapa-attend yung kliyente mo, yung akusado, no? Kasi that's going to be an added stress. Anyway, lalo-lalo na kung nakakulong, right? It doesn't matter kung ano yung mangyari ngayon. It doesn't change the reality of the accused, no? Kasi kung mapalaya nga siya o kung mag-grant yung appeal niya, then lalaya siya. So, kumbaga, today, the presence of the accused today is irrelevant or immaterial.
Non-bearing, kumbaga.
For today.
For today. Right. And could it also be paving the way for a possible, kunyari, hindi na-grant yung interim release, for the possible, in the future, filing the motions for, yung fitness to stand trial? O sabihin nila, hindi niya kaya talaga maka-attend eh.
That could be true, no? That could also be part of the strategy. Kasi, again, the presence of the accused during trial is really kumbaga, hindi ito yung very important right? Maganda sana kung nag-a-attend siya, at least from the perspective of the justices or the judges, makikita nila that the accused is interested, no? And invested in attending the trials. But we also have to consider, Angela and Diego, yung circumstances din ni former President Duterte. Right now, I think he's probably too weak, too frail to be physically moving around distances, no? Maglalakad papuntang korte, and also pag nasa korte ka, you have to sit down or stand up and be exposed to the elements. I think health-wise, physical-wise, I think yung hindi niya pag-attend should also be a consideration.
Okay, so yun nga po dito sa magiging oral judgment later, dalawa lang naman yung magiging scenario niyan eh. One would be payagan siya, one would be hindi, 'di ba? So right now, yung mga supporters po ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte are on the streets praying at inaabangan yung magiging sagot dito ng ICC pre-trial chamber. And yesterday, we were talking to Attorney Cristina Conti ng ICC, Assistant to Counsel. She said meron din na parang watch party sa hanay naman ng mga family ng victims dito sa kaso na ito. So, what would be the, kumbaga parang impact politically dito sa ating bansa nitong magiging desisyon ng ICC pre-trial chamber?
I think politics-wise, I think it will have minimal impact, no? Kasi right now, lahat tayo nakatutok tayo dun sa flood control problem, yung corruption infrastructure projects na afflicted by corruption.
Yeah.
But I don't want to minimize the gravity of this matter, no? Kasi yung side ng mga victims of EJK, sa kanila, this is very important.
That's right.
this issue is very important to them. Kaya nga sila pumunta sa ICC, right? Kasi they couldn't get the justice they want from our courts, from our government. So whatever happens in this matter is very important to them. And I think yun yung dapat ma-emphasize dito. No?
Right. But
I
what
do not-
about
I do not
the Duterte's
actually-
political influence dito, attorney? Meron ba yung effect din?
Siguro very minimal effect, no? Kasi right now yung Duterte side, no, yung Duterte force, for a lack of a better term, they're challenged by many, or they are challenged on many fronts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Meron silang corruption angle din, meron din silang resources angle din, and I think yung pinaka-importante ngayon is that they are being branded as pro-China, right? So, kumbaga, from their perspective, I would say this is only a fraction of the challenges that they're facing politically, no? But of course, sa pamilya nila, it's also very important kasi nakakulong yung patriarch nila eh.
Yeah, that's right.
Kumbaga, papasok na yung Pasko, how will they spend Christmas, no? They're going to spend it in a vastly different way, no? Na yung patriarch nila nakakulong, sila dito sa Pilipinas, malayong-malayo. Pero
Go ahead.
what I just want to say is tayong outside of that circle, no?
Yeah.
I think mas matimbang dapat sa atin yung perspective ng mga victims of the EJK.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Mas matimbang dapat yung tingin natin kasi they are fighting for justice. So dun at least ako nakabaling, no, na I want to support them, na ito yung hinahanap yung hustisya kahit na ba mahirap, but we are there beside you or behind you,
That's right.
supporting you.
That's right. Parang kasi, attorney, I agree with you on that, no, na parang nakakalimutan na ng taong bayan on both sides of the political fence. Now, it's not about really their political leaders, but rather the people who suffered immense pain through this issue. Now, pero from a political or PR perspective, attorney, would hindi ba mas parang okay if you're on the Duterte side to send the patriarch to be seen on national or international TV as frail? Because it may rile up supporters leading up to the rally on, I know it's not prudent to discuss things like this, but if you're a PR spinner, yun ang gagawin mo kasi may rally ka sa November 30 sa Sunday. And makita mo si FPRRD na may following na frail, it could rile up the emotions and maybe help achieve the goals of the Duterte bloc.
Well, that's a fair point, no? Kaya nga ang naisip ko, maybe the former president is really just too weak to move. Baka, physically, baka very challenging na sa kanya yung tumayo ng matagal, maglakad, kahit na ba nasa wheelchair. Di ba? Maybe that's the kumbaga, the difficulty in attending the hearing, no? So, kahit na ba online siya mag-attend, di ba? Kailangan niya magbihis, kailangan niyang umupo ng matagal. So, I think the physical aspect is the challenge for the former president, no? Now, syempre, kung gusto talaga nilang gamitin ito for propaganda, they could. Pero the fact na they all accepted na hindi na siya mag-attend, maybe because it's too difficult talaga
for him
for
already.
his health, for his physical well-being. Baka the risk is just too much. Kahit na ba it can be used for propaganda.
Well, talking about the trillion peso march on November 30, of course, ang pinagkaugatan naman ng rally na yan yung usapin ng anomalous flood control project. So right now, I would like to ask you, Attorney, how is this administration faring, diba? Doing in terms of adhering to their promise, especially si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos sabi niya pagtugis ng mga may kasalanan dito sa anomalous flood control projects.
That's a good question, and the way that I would answer that is I would pinpoint to the ombudsman, yung kung ano yung ginagawa ng ombudsman. And the reason why I'm doing that is because ombudsman lang naman talaga yung makaka-deliver sa atin ng gusto natin, which is makulong yung lahat ng dapat makulong at babawi lahat ng perang ninakaw. No? So President Marcos can't do that, the ICI can't do that, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee cannot do that. Only the ombudsman, kung gawin niya yung trabaho niya ng tama sa pag-prosecute ng kaso sa Sandigan Bayan, matatamo natin yon. No? So kung titignan natin yung ombudsman, ngayon, yung ginagawa niya, I would say na it's positive. No? Mukhang we're moving towards the right direction. Personally, nagulat nga ako, ang bilis na issue ng warrant eh. Ang personal experience ko kasi dyan, medyo may panahon na lumilipas bago na i-issue ang warrant. But
kahit yung PDAF.
In this case, no, parang wala pang isang linggo, may warrant na agad. Which is the right thing, no? Nagugulat tayo, pero ito yung dapat nangyayari lagi. Right? Hindi dapat ito yung special occasion. Dapat lagi ganito nangyayari. So, given that, I would say, from what I'm seeing with the Ombudsman and also the Sandigan Bayan and also the Supreme Court, no, designating special RTCs for corruption cases, taking all of those in consideration, I would say that for now, no, we are moving towards the right direction in achieving what we want, which is lahat sila makulong, lahat ng dapat makulong ay makulong at mabawi yung perang mga ninakaw nila.
Yes, and that's right. No, we all want accountability, but I think I agree also with some several luminaries saying that we're also losing sight of another issue altogether. We are reacting to something that has happened and which has damaged the image of this country. What law is there existing, or what laws do we need to pass to ensure things of this magnitude won't happen again? Granted, may mga bagay na ganito mangyayari paulit-ulit, but if you look at the world politics right now, smaller scale corruption led to resignations of their leaders out of shame. So what do we need to do right now as a preventive measure para hindi laging hahabulin natin at ikukulong, just to prevent the damage from happening?
So the quick answer there is to elect better leaders, no? That's the answer. Kasi laws we have. We have the laws that prohibit corruption, penalizes corrupt acts, conflicts of interest. Lahat yan, it's all in the books, no? But the point ang nangyayari kasi is that we elect the wrong people. We elect thieves, basically, no? Plunderers. So, hindi na, sino ba yung nagpapatupad ng batas? Siyempre, yung mga taong nasa poder, right? So, kung yung mga taong nasa poder ay mismo yung mga nagnanakaw, then obviously, I mean, common sense, they will not implement the law properly. And we know that, we've seen that. No? So, the answer to your question is, if we want things to change, then we have to elect better people.
All right.
Right? Now, medyo grand suggestion yun, di ba? So, to bring that back to earth, I would say is, siguro, we should first elect non-dynastic lawmakers.
Oo.
Yun na muna. Let's start there, di ba? Let's not go.
I had that in mind.
Meron tayong grand ambition.
That's true.
Meron tayong grand ambition, but let's bring that down to earth and start small and say, let's start by electing non-dynastic lawmakers.
Actually, that's a possibility.
Oh,
yung electing, because yung
lagyan nila IRR.
Oh, hindi, yung
Enabling law, 'di ba?
Pag hain mo ng batas, 'di ba? Anti-dynasty law. Medyo may tulog pa 'yan dahil lahat ng nasa kongreso mo galing sa dinastiya, 'di ba? Pero pag ikaw, taong bayan ang gagawa ng paraan, I think that's a possibility, but we'll see.
Actually, before we let you go quickly, I agree with you. Dalawa nakita ko dyan, non-dynastic leaders. Tsaka number 2, should we review also yung political system? In other words, two-party system, maybe like the US?
Kasi yung the party system actually that emerges from the people themselves, kung ano yung gusto nila. So it's not about creating a design and then saying, ganito tayo. The system evolves from what we want, what we need. So that should start still or also from electing the right leaders, right? Kasi kung ang ini-elect natin mga dynastic politicians lagi, and they will not change the system, right? Kasi that the bad system benefits them.
Okay.
So if we have to elect new kinds of politicians, non-dynastic, so that we can start evolving into a better, improved political system.
Alright, sige, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras. That was Ateneo Policy Center Senior Research Fellow Attorney Michael Yusinko.
Maraming salamat.
Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Now over at Pasay, no, at the hotel in Pasay City, meron pong mga 100 police and NBI personnel that are currently searching doon sa hotel sa Pasay dahil sinasabi nila meron daw dong at least 3 officials ng SunWest Incorporated
SunWest is the
na
company
nagtatago doon.
supposedly
Yeah, for context.
founded by Saldico.
Kasama ata sila doon sa mga arrest warrants, no?
Yung second batch ba to?
Oo, dito
Not
sa,
the first,
of course, usapin pa rin ng flood control project.
yeah.
So, this is a developing story. We have Mon Gualvez on the ground and we'll see if we can talk to him. But yun po yung nangyayari ngayon as of the moment. For kung anong hotel po yun, hindi pa natin po alam yung detalye. In other news, at least 23 Filipinos affected by the Hong Kong apartment fire in Tai Po are now safe but still need assistance. Philippine Consul General Romulo Victor Manzano Israel Jr. told One News' The Big Story that some remain in shelters while others have left with their employers. He also confirmed that the family of the Filipina still in the ICU has been contacted by partner agencies. Authorities are now working to reach 59 other Filipino domestic workers believed to have lived in the damaged apartments to ensure everyone is accounted for.
We have the OWA and MWO with us, have assured our workers of Philippine government's assistance. So those who were affected by the fire will receive monetary assistance, and those who are in need of medical help as well, so will have additional assistance.
Now, the Pasig Regional Trial Court Branch 157 has approved the cancellation of former presidential spokesman Harry Roque's passport. Prosecutor General Richard Fadulion confirmed the court's decision on November 24. The move comes amid his involvement in a qualified human trafficking case linked to the illegal operations of a Pogo hub in Porac, Pampanga. Meanwhile, Department of Justice spokesman Polo Martinez said that there is no Interpol red notice yet against Roque. He noted that Interpol red notices generally follow a court's passport cancellation order. In an interview with Storicon, Roque said his passport cancellation and possible red notice do not affect his asylum status. Now, joining us now is DFA spokesperson Angie Escalona. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, folks.
At magandang umaga po sa ating mga kababayan.
Alright, good morning. Thank you for joining us po. Ano po yung next step ngayon na may order po ang court of the cancellation ng passport ni Harry Roque?
Yung omnibus cancellation po, no? Ng Branch 157 of the Regional Trial Court of Pasig City. Na-receive yun ng DFA noong November 24. At kinabukasan, November 25, nakansala na po ang passport ni Harry Roque, Cassandra Leong at tatlo pang iba na naandun sa omnibus resolution na yun.
Yung sinasabi po niya na meron siyang 15 days since it was canceled to appeal, is that accurate?
Ang mangyayari po kasi is that since na-receive namin tong omnibus resolution calling for the cancellation, ika-cancela po muna namin yan. Ngayon, pwede naman pong mag-appeal si Mr. Roque, but as far as the DFA is concerned, kailangan makakuha kami ng proof na cleared siya.
Oo.
So in the meantime, canceled po yung passport.
Oo. So kahit mag-appeal siya, canceled pa rin yon. Yun yung importanteng malaman doon.
Opo.
Okay, so ang hingi lang din po kami ng update sa inyo, ma'am, tungkol po dito sa possible Interpol red notice laban kay former spokesperson Harry Roque.
Ang Interpol red notice po, nanggagaling yan sa ating mga law enforcement agencies, hindi sa DFA. So ang nangyari po, ang sa amin, on the passport side, once po na nakansela namin ang passport, i-inform namin ang Bureau of Immigration dito sa Pilipinas at ang Philippine Center on Transnational Crime, yan ang Interpol office dito sa Pilipinas. At sila naman po, i-inform nila ang Interpol International. So it's a law enforcement matter.
So pero yung movements po ni former spokesperson Harry Roque, no, in essence po magiging limited to where he is right now given na wala siyang passport, or is he allowed to move within, let's say, travel from the Netherlands to Austria to Germany?
Pag meron po kasing nasa Interpol database na yan, if a flat yan, magdadaan siya sa mga airport at border crossing points.
Doon po sa naging, yung, kumbaga, nagkaroon po kasi ng mga reports po the other day or few days ago regarding his parang arrest. Pero of course, on his part, pinabolaanan po niya yan and explain po niya yung nangyari. But kayo po ba sa DOJ, has Austria communicated, DFA rather, has Austria communicated about his blocked entry or canceled flight or anything to do with Harry Roque?
Wala
Meron
po
pong communication.
Official confirmation. Wala po.
Okay, so ano po ba ang magiging epekto? Perhaps baka po ma-enlighten niyo po kami dito sa usapin na ito kasi sinasabi nga po ni former spokesperson Harry Roque na kahit canceled yung kanyang passport, ay hindi naman daw siya po pwedeng maibalik dito sa Pilipinas because of yung kanyang application sa asylum. At meron daw po siyang tinatawag na non-refoulement na hindi po pwedeng ibalik dito sa Pilipinas kung saan siya nagfa-file nga kung bakit siya nagfa-file ng asylum.
Naku, siguro on that matter po, we defer to the Department of Justice because they are the appropriate agency handling this. Kami po yung sa passport kami, and we will assist our law enforcement agencies when it comes to this matter. We will await instructions from the DILG and the DOJ.
That's right. Pero paano po ba yung proseso po dyan sa DOJ, DFA rather, I'm sorry, kapag cancel na po yung passport, nai-inform po ba natin yung mga bansa or paano po yung communication na to make sure na meron po tayong tao na kinanselahan po yung passport?
Gaya po ng nasabi ko kanina, first, in-inform natin ang Bureau of Immigration. Pangalawa is the Philippine Center on Transnational Crime, which is Interpol Philippines Office. Ang Interpol Philippines inform Interpol International. May database nila na ma-flag na yan, ma-alert mo sa system nila. So, sa lahat ng airport at border crossing points, naka-flag na po yung passport niya.
Alright, with that, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. That was DFA spokesperson Angie Escalona. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po.
Yung usapin kasi ng passport ni...
Tama si ma'am, kasi limited lang ng discussion ito with her about passport.
DOJ.
To get in technical side of yung red notice on how soon after monitoring of his movements, the DOJ side naman yun.
Totoo.
Oo, kasi yung sa kanila is canceling of the passport, which in essence is ang usapin dyan, yun lang kasi ang form of ID na ginagamit ni Harry Roque as identification to be identified as a Filipino who is seeking asylum.
Totoo.
Pero kung wala ka ng ID na valid, ano mangyayari?
And
diba?
they will only do that kapag may mga court order, di ba? That's why even if you ask regarding Zaldico, kasi ngayon usapin din na bakit hanggang ngayon hindi pa rin
may warrant na, di ba?
cancel, di ba, yung passport niya. So, well, DFA cannot answer that unless meron ng court order.
Omnibus
for them to
ng court
cancel
order.
the passport.
Alright.
Pero ang bilis ng na-cancel na passport naman, doon kila Cassandra Leong tsaka yung isa Bernabe ba yun? Bernabe yung kasama niya. 'Di ba? Doon naman sa usapin ng Pogo 'yan.
Pero yung mga nagsasabi bakit wala pa si Saldico, si Roque meron na. Matagal na tong case ni former spokesman Roque. It started last year pa.
And to give you context, yung kaso po ni former spokesperson Harry Roque
Qualified human
ay
trafficking.
qualified human trafficking doon sa usapin ng Pogo. Diba?
I'm saying yung ikala nila ba't ang bilis, hindi. This stems from yung involvement na last year pang
if I'm not mistaken,
pinag-uusapan.
March yung kaso sa Regional Trial Court ng
Matagal na
Angeles.
ito, oo.
Kasabay nung kila Alice Go, kila Cassandra O.
So kung nag-aabang sila ng cancellation kay Saldico, baka matagal passport. Let's see.
O, di ba, recently nagkaroon ng claim si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos saying
Yung
na...
lawyer.
Oo,
Which lawyer kaya?
Oo nga, which legal counsel yun. Kasi of course, doon sa side naman nila Zaldico, ay dinideny nila yun. Na nagkaroon daw ng... through Attorney Rondain, na dinideny nila na nagkaroon daw ng ugnayan kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na may pagbablackmail saying na kapag wag nyo na i-cancel yung pasaporte ko para hindi na ako maglabas sa mga video statements.
That lawyer. Pero if somebody else spoke on behalf of Saldico, hindi natin alam.
What we need to know is for the President also to share with us paano niya nakuha yung impormasyon na yon. Because vice versa naman yan eh. If you're throwing accusations, patunayan mo.
Alright, don't go away. We're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on The One News. More than 100 police and NBI personnel are currently searching a hotel in Pasay City where 3 officials of SunWest Inc. are believed to be hiding. The officials are wanted in connection with alleged irregularities in flood control projects. For more details, we have News 5 correspondent Mon Gualvez. Mon!
Ay Diego, isang hinalughog ng mga operatiba ng pulis at NBI itong 10 floors ng isang hotel dito sa Pasay City. Just to look dito nga sa 3 opisyal ng SunWest Inc. para nga maaresto dahil sila may mga pending arrest warrant din regarding dito sa flood control issue. Unfortunately, after an hour of search dito sa buong hotel, walang nakita na mga opisyal ng SunWest Inc. No? Just to give you a backgrounder, ito kasing hotel is pagmamayari din ito ng SunWest Inc. So ang sinasabi, ang info sa mga pulis, nagtago raw dito ang 3 at nagpanggap na mga empleyado. Kabilang nga sa kanilang mga natanggap na impormasyon, nagstay sa kitchen, sa may pantry at saka sa mga housekeeping. So dito sila ikinanlong technically. Dahil nga sa nangyari, talagang mabilis din naman nag-alisan na ang mga operatiba dahil din sa mga bisita or mga guests rather dito sa hotel din na makaabala pa. Pero ang sinasabi ng mga pulis, kahit na sabihin daw na medyo overkill dahil talaga akala mo lulusob sa gera. Dahil more than 100 of personnel are here in one hotel kasi nga ang gusto nila sabihin, seryoso sila sa paghahain at talagang pag-aresto dito sa mga sangkot sa flood control scandal. Out of 16 kasi na silbihan nga or nalabasan ng arrest warrant, siyam yung naaresto. At sa siyam na yan, nahawak ngayon ng mga otoridad, wala pa dyan ni isang empleyado o opisyal ng SunWest Inc. Kaya ang pinapakita rin nila dito, talagang kung sakasakali at malaman ito ng mga opisyal ng SunWest Inc. na mga nandito sa Pilipinas o kahit yung mga nasa ibang bansa, mas maigi na raw na sumuko na lamang sila dahil iisa-isahin daw nila ang lahat ng mga properties na may koneksyon sa SunWest Inc. at nagbabala rin sila sa mga individual or companies or establishments na magtatangka na magkanlong o magtago dito sa mga naturang opisyal na may mga arrest warrant, madadamay at masasampahan din daw sila ng kaso. Dito kasi sa Midas Hotel, wala. Hindi pa masabi ng mga ng PNP CIDG if they're going to file a case against them if it's proven na dito nagtago. Kasi nga, wala rin naman na-arresto technically. So, mukhang they will transfer to another area just to look for these officials of SunWest Inc. who have pending arrest warrant.
Mon, although walang nakita, no, pero does it mean that yung tip was not good or talagang confirmed that they were there, just nagkataon nang nakaalis na?
Oo, actually we asked that directly to the PNP officials, no, kasi nga parang ang daming lumusob at naghalughog So parang nakakapanghinayang na wala man lang na-aresto, and we asked if the info was leaked, no? Hindi naman daw kasi sa nag-jump off sila an hour lang naman, pero yun nga, they are very sure that the info was an alpha. Ibig sabihin talagang totoo na nandito nga daw yung tatlo. It just so happened mukhang nakatakas.
But, well, Mon, for transparency lang, sino-sino ba tong supposedly tatlo na ito na hinahanap ng ng mga pulis dyan sa Pasay Hotel na empleyado ng SunWest, nakasama sa arrest warrant?
Yes. The three wanted with their last known identities, no, na mga officials ng SunWest are Consuelo Aldon, Anthony Ngo, and Noel Cao. The three were all members of the board of directors ng SunWest Inc. And again, all of them, these officials, not only these three, pero yung iba pa, are still at large na ngayon ng mga otoridad.
Well, I was wondering kung hihingi ba sa korte itong mga pulis na to, arresting officers na to, ng kopya ng CCTV ng hotel?
They might do that, pero kasi nga, if ever they want to push through with the case, kung sakali nagkandong itong naturang hotel, pero sa ngayon, mas focus daw sila in terms of finding the wanted individuals right now, Angela.
Quickly lang before I let you go, Mon, wala bang abogado itong tatlo na to na nakikipag-coordinate sa police?
Sa ngayon, walang lumabas sa amin. Pero ang sinasabi din naman ng mga polis, meron daw nakikipag-coordinate sa kanilang abogado ng mga individual na to. Pero hindi na sila nagbigay pa ng information regarding that kasi we are asking if they will be surrendering, if ever, with this kind of operation na ginawa ng mga authorities.
Yes.
Wala pang ganong klaseng information na pina-finalize ang police up to this point.
Okay.
Diego.
All right, thank you for that. News 5 correspondent Mon Gualvez for your report. The Anti-Red Tape Authority has released the list of the top 10 most complained government agencies for 2025. Leading the list is the Food and Drug Administration, followed by the Land Transportation Office and the BIR o Bureau of Internal Revenue. ARTA says the rankings were based on reports submitted through email, social media, physical mail, online systems, and its public assistance desk. The data covers complaints from January 1 to October 31, 2025. Most violations involve unjustified delays in processing applications or requests, breaching the ease of doing business law. Now let's discuss that list with Anti-Red Tape Authority Director General Ernesto Perez. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Pleasure ours. Thank you for this opportunity that we can also give light, some explanations to the list provided to the Senate and which the media was able to pick up also.
Alright, kasi biglang nag-react ng mga kababayan, bakit wala daw ang DPWH dyan. Pero iba kasi ang basis nito sa listahan. Paki-explain po.
The list that we provided is the list that of complaints that we received. So from 2022 to 2025. And in fairness naman, we'd like to say that we also have to commend those agencies listed because they have also immediately acted on the complaints that were referred to them by the Anti-Red Tape Authority. For instance, for Food and Drug Administration in the year from period January to October 2025, total number of complaints received was at 599. However, 570 of which were already resolved and only 29 remain active in our file. So, to us, this gives us some data that will guide us in how we further collaborate with the agencies concerned. I'd like to highlight that in the figures that we received from 2022 to 2025, the rankings changed.
Okay.
So you will see there that agencies at a rank number 1, 2, or 3, they really make extra effort to improve. That's why the rankings change.
Okay.
Well, sir, alam naman po natin yung batas na ito na ginawad sa atin few years ago, yung ease of doing business. At ito po ay yung level of simplicity and efficiency with businesses can operate within the economy. Now, given this list, ano po ba yung ipapataw natin na parusa dito sa mga kumpanya na ito na hindi tumatalima dito sa ease, 'di ba, of doing business sa ating bansa?
The law is very specific as to the penalties imposed, particularly under Section 21, na depending on the nature of the complaint, the general penalty is that for the first offense, the penalty is 6 months suspension, and then for the second offense, dismissal from service, including forfeiture of benefits, perpetual disqualification from service, a fine of 500,000 to 2 million, including an imprisonment of 1 to 5 years. So we'd like to highlight that because of the penalties, the state penalties imposed, once the agency is made aware of the complaint that is referred to them, they would immediately act on it. In fact, even before the Anti-Retif Authority conducts a clarificatory hearing, most of these cases referred to them, they immediately act on it. That's why we really encourage our kababayans to complain to us so that we can really offer immediate solutions instead of these problems being confined among them in private. So we really have to, and the complaint process of ARTA is very simple, and we assist. Really.
A few days ago, sir, we had Senator J.V. Ejercito on the show, and he talked about the BIR extortion issue with regards to letter of authority. No? Na umabot na ba sa inyo to, sir, itong issue na sinisiwalat ni Senator Ejercito?
In fact, hindi lang po si Senator Ejercito nag-raise niyan. Most of the chambers of commerce, the local Philippine Chamber of Commerce, nagreklamo po, and we already submitted a recommendation to then Special Assistant to the President, Secretary Go. And the Secretary Go now being the Finance Secretary, and there's with the new BIR Commissioner, they immediately acted on it by suspending those LOAs that BIR has been issuing. So suspended po yun. In the meantime, because of that suspension, ARTA will reach out to the BIR, and which we are also doing because they usually attend our collaboration hearing. So we will look into how we can further address those issues raised to us by businessmen, especially in the issuance of LOAs.
Okay, so what were the complaints ano po ba na mga binibigay dyan
Typical
usually?
complaints?
Ang typical complaint po talaga dito that they're really complaining. Once na makatanggap sila ng letter of authority to conduct examination, walang tigil na po yan at sunod-sunod, at usually yung figure na kino-quote mataas that will oblige or comply the businessman to compromise. So yun po ang reality dyan. So with this suspension, we will be able to clarify with the BIR as to the process of the issuance of these LOAs and as to the selection of targeted businessmen. We're not encroaching, we have to emphasize that ARTA's mandate is not encroaching on the mandate of the BIR to collect taxes, because that is one of the exceptions to our mandate. When it comes to revenue-generating measures by the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the ARTA cannot intervene.
Okay.
What we can intervene is only on their process to ensure that the process is fair, reasonable, and has legal basis.
Right.
So yun, para klaruhin lang, itong list na pinakita nyo, this is the current ranking. Ito po, kasi sabi nyo, nag-iiba-iba po yan eh. Di ba, yung iba nagbago. Ito yung current ranking.
Yes, for the period January to October 2025.
Ano yung madalas po nasa number 1?
Ang consistent po, well, hindi naman madalas, no? Pero pag yung madalas na nasa top 10 ay yung mga Food and Drug Administration, Land Transportation Office, Bureau of Internal Revenue. Ngayon, that's for the period 2022, 2023 to 2024. For instance, in 2022, ang number 1, ang nagra-rank po na number 1 sa most complained is Land Transportation Office. Ang Food and Drug Administration nasa medyo mababa kasi we receive only 64 complaints involving Food and Drug Administration. Pagdating po sa 2023, ang number 1 sa list po is the Bureau of Internal Revenue with 410 complaints received by ARTA. Ang LTO remained naging number 2 na po, from number 1 to number 2. And then pumasok po yung Department of Environment and Natural Resources na 212 na naging number 3. Pagdating po sa 2024, ang nag-top po sa list ay yung ito, Bureau of Internal Revenue na with 462 complaints received by ARTA. Ang number 2 po ay yung Land Transportation Office
Consistent,
na 400. Tapos, ang sumunod po ay ito nga, yung Food and Drug Administration at 221. So doon po natin nakikita yung dynamics no na agencies are really trying their best to address those complaints by immediately resolving them. Ngayon, pagdating po sa 2025, dito po ulit ay tumaas, naging number 1 yung Food and Drug Administration. Ang simpleng explanation po dito ng food at sangayon din po sa ating pag-aaral, then naglabas po ang FDA ng regulation that increased the rates no na napakataas. So ang dami pong nagreklamo, but in response, because of those complaints, sinuspend po ng bagong Director General ng FDA. Kaya doon po kita natin na na-resolve, kaya nga po doon sa based sa 2025 figures, out of those 599 cases or complaints received by ARTA, 570 of which were already resolved. At 29 na lang po pending.
Sir, mahaba ang usapin niya. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. Pero hopefully, sir, syempre, ang pinaka-goal naman natin dapat dito, sir, ay wala ng top 10. Dahil lahat tumatalima na sa ease of doing business. With that, maraming salamat po sa inyong
sir.
oras.
I would just like to highlight na yung published figures do not necessarily reflect the competence or incompetence of that government agencies. It gives us a parang basis for closer collaboration with the agencies
for improvements.
Para mapabilis, mapaganda pa yung kanilang at marami pong programa ang ARTA na ginagawa like regarding impact assessment training, business process mapping, titinan yung kanilang para mapag-aralan yung process at ma-reduce pa yung unnecessary requirements.
Okay. That was maraming salamat po sa inyong oras muli. Siguro sa susunod na araw din po pa sa mas mahabang discussion. That was sa Anti-Red Tape Authority Director General Ernesto Perez.
Salamat po.
Nueva Ecija residents are on alert as swarms of alitangya or rice black bugs continue to invade farms and affect daily life across the province. Mobile journalist Ray Vicente has the report. Alitangya.
Residents of Nueva Ecija are complaining the rampant infestation of alitangya or rice block bugs that poses a threat in their livelihood. Alitangya is usually seen swarming in rice fields, affecting farmers' rice production.
Meron kasi kaming bukid, tapos dahil sa alitangya, sinisip-sip niya yung yung ugat ng palay. Kaya yung palay na nagda-dry. Ayun, namamatay yung palay. Ngayon yung mga palay namin, mababa yung presyo.
During its season, alitangya is said to be a problem at night due to its number and foul odor.
October to November pagkapos na yung tag-ulan talaga. Gabi lang siya lumalabas talaga. Kaya kapag nakasindi yung ilaw mo sa labas, doon na sila puntahan. Kahit isang alitangya lang yung dumapo sa'yo, tapos nahawakan mo siya, sobrang baho na niya.
However, they can now be found even on the roads and business stores.
Habang nag-drive po kami, talagang nakatago po ako sa likod ng driver kasi talagang bumabangga talaga sa amin yung mga alitangya. Umuulan po ng alitangya.
Some establishments had no choice but to close early before night.
Nung pumasok na po kami sa may market, may mga alitangya po sa loob. Lalo na po yung mga nag-iihaw-ihaw, yung mga pagkain po, yung mga street foods. Parang nung nakita ko po kasi nung time na yon, ala na pong bumibili. Yung iba po, nagsasara na po. Nung gabi lang po na yon.
Just like any other insects, an entomologist said that alitangyas are also naturally attracted to light, making it their alternative location.
Pumupunta sila even sa mga stores na sa paligid. I can say that this is an example of the attraction to light ng mga insect. There are so many of them in the rice field already. So, marami na sila doon. They are competing too much. Maghahanap sila ng alternate na pwedeng puntahan so that mag-survive sila.
Yet, alitangya still primarily feed on rice plant. They are usually seen in rice field that is a common sight in Nueva Ecija.
It's a sap feed. sap feeder. So sinisip-sip nito yung kanyang, kumbaga parang blood ng halaman o ng rice. At pag sinipsip niya ito ay maaaring maging dahilan ng maraming deficiencies sa katawan ng palay. Nueva Ecija kasi ticked off all the ingredients in the recipe for this disaster. Kasama na dyan yung continuous na flooding.
Kapatid Ray Vicente, we are One News.
Yan, wala tayong oras. Happy birthday kay
Ayoko
Diego.
sana sabihin sa tao Sabihin
Birthday niya sa Sunday, 3 Lutesa March.
18th birthday ko. De, 50th. Thank you sa One News family. Another year. Wag. Thank you sa One News family. Another year of life, and sa Budas Belly, and sa support lahat ng sponsors at sa team natin.
News and Views,
News
of
and
course.
Views family.
Okay.
Alright, and of course, since it is approaching another year of my life, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Life is not about having more time. It's about noticing the time you already have.
Yes.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time. 50th.